Happy fall! I'm Melissa from the blog hymnsandhome.com, and I thought it'd be fun today to show you how to make a loaf of bread shaped like a pumpkin. Nothing beats homemade bread, especially served alongside soup or stew, and during the cold fall and winter months, it's just so cozy to have some homemade bread. This makes a super cute side dish for Thanksgiving or any sort of fall gathering you might have, and it looks really impressive, but is actually really easy to do. Welcome to Hymns and Home. I'm Melissa, wife, mom, professional musician, and blogger at hymnsandhome.com. Join me as I share inspiration for modern cottage living and my love of all things homemade and thrifted. From decor and DIY to vintage, thrifting, cooking, and gardening, here you'll find the resources you need to create your very own modern cottage. This video will show you how to shape and bake and decorate the pumpkin loaf, but it does assume that you already have a bread recipe to use. Now, I will share one of my favorite resources for bread recipes, but you're welcome to use any bread recipe that you like. So to make this even easier on myself than it already is, because time is of the essence, especially with little kids, I use the bread machine to make the dough for me. So then all I have to do afterward is shape it and bake it. So I actually use a recipe out of one of my favorite cookbooks, which is the Bread Lovers Bread Machine Cookbook by Beth Hensberger, and you can get it off Amazon. I have it linked in my description below if you're interested. And then I've also linked my Zojirushi bread maker as well. I love it. I have had it for almost 7 years. I got it as a wedding present, and I have used it dozens and dozens of times, and it has been great, like a lifesaver, because you can just set up the bread and program it to be done for whenever you want it to be done. So, you can set it up in the morning and have fresh bread ready for dinner that night, and you don't even have to worry about it. If you've never used a bread machine, it is really, really simple. You literally just dump all the ingredients into your pan in the order that they're supposed to be in, put it in your machine, press go, and boom, several hours later you have bread. For this particular pumpkin loaf, I am going to use the Franksbrot recipe out of Beth Hensberger's book. You can find it on page 74 of her book if you're interested. The Franksbrot bakes up really well. It's just a pretty looking bread. I always make little notes in my cookbooks as I go. So the very first time I made this, I said, really nice bread, looks pretty, is fluffy with a crisp crust, good dinner side bread. So it's just kind of a plain old bread that goes with anything. So with bread machine recipes, you always put your liquid ingredients in first. The measuring cup that was just used for water goes back directly in the jar. It's kind of like a freebie. You don't even have to do the dishes for that. 1 egg. Next comes our bread flour. So even though I am gluten-free, I still make gluten-containing bread for my family. And I'm not too worried about it since I don't have an official diagnosis. Like, I don't have a celiac diagnosis or something yet. So for right now, I just continue to make bread, and I'm just careful to wash my hands afterward and not spread it onto anything that I'm going to eat. I always use the spooning into the cup method for my flour because it keeps it from compacting and giving you too much flour. I know a lot of people like to weigh their flour when they bake. This particular book doesn't come with measurements for weight. Sugar. I keep my Vital wheat gluten in the freezer. Keep it fresh. find it kind of funny that I have a bag of the very thing that makes me sick. But like I said, I just wash my hands afterward. That's fine. For me. I mean, you do what you feel like you should do. But for me, I'm not worried to wash my hands afterward. Salt. I keep my yeast in the refrigerator because it keeps it fresh longer. I'm just going to make a little hole in the middle of our dry ingredients here. Sprinkle our yeast in the middle. All right, so now we are just going to stick this into our bread machine, press start. So I have found for my environment personally that my bread does better when I skip the rest cycle on the bread machine. So that's usually like a 30-minute cycle just so everything can come to temperature, room temperature, and bake better. But for whatever reason, in my basement where I keep my bread machine, my bread does better when I skip the rest cycle. So that means my bread dough will be done in about like an hour and a half or so. So I'm just going to put this on the dough cycle and then we'll be ready to shape. Okay, so it's been about an hour and 20 minutes and our dough is done. It looks like that. We are now going to flour our counter. There's no need to preheat your oven yet because we will need to let this rise for another hour. All right, so we're just gonna flour our counter here. Dump out our dough. If it gets stuck, you can turn the paddles a little bit to help the dough get out. There it is. All right, so just get this kind of floured so it doesn't stick. You're gonna wanna have a baking sheet with a piece of parchment on it. A little trick I learned off of Instagram is you crumple it all up and then smooth it back out and it will lay flat. So let's try it. For the shaping, you are going to lay lengths of cotton kitchen twine in kind of a star or snowflake pattern on top of your parchment, and then place your dough in the very center, and you're going to bring the opposite sides of the lengths of twine up to meet each other and tie it very, very loosely in the middle. Now, you don't want to tie it too tightly or you are going to lose your twine in the middle of your bread as it rises. Cut off any excess, and then take a very lightly damp cotton tea towel and cover your bread. Put it in a warm place and let it rise for about an hour. All right, let's see what it looks like. All right, that really puffed up. So my oven is preheated to 350 degrees and we're gonna go ahead and stick it in. All right, timer's going off. We're gonna pull it out of the oven. See how it looks. Nope, you stay over there, sweetie. No. Can we? You gotta stay over here. Okay. Oh, look at that. Looks nice. Except we're gonna turn it over. I feel like this part started to pull away. And turn it over. We're gonna give it a thump. Sounds hollow. Just for fun, we're going to go ahead and temp it with my thermometer. This is my OXO digital thermometer. I use it for so much stuff, like not even just meat. I use it for bread too. So we're going to see if the internal temperature of this registers to about 190. Just going to turn it over, stick it in the bottom, and see what it registers. It's actually at 182, and we're going to go ahead and call it done. I got a package. typically anywhere in that like 180 to 200 range is usually considered done for bread. It's just totally dependent on how done you like your bread. So this is at 182. I feel good about that. We're going to call it done, especially since I need to get the rest of my dinner going here. At this point, you can either cut off the strings or you can let it cool and then cut off the strings. I'm going to go ahead and cut them off now. You just cut them and very carefully pull them out. It's probably going to rip the bread just a little bit, but that's okay. Because if it didn't get embedded too deeply, then it shouldn't be a problem. Always be careful because, you know, it just came out of the oven, so it's hot. And then we're just going to transfer this to a cooling rack. All right, so I've transferred it to a cooling rack to cool, and usually I would wait till it's completely cool to put my cinnamon stick in, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to show you what I do lastly, which is to just take a cinnamon stick, poke a hole, and put it in the middle of your bread, and there is your pumpkin. All right, well that does it for our pumpkin-shaped loaf. This would be a great addition to a Thanksgiving table, any fall gathering, take it over to a friend's house, give it as a gift, maybe put it in a basket. So I hope you've enjoyed this little tutorial. Again, you can find all the links to my bread machine cookbook. You can find all of that below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And thanks so much for watching.